5 years after #MeToo, the New York Times complains that more damage has not been done. The Hollywood correspondent for the New York Times, Brooks Barnes, published an article on Monday titled After #MeToo Reckoning, I Fear Hollywood is Regressing, in which he laments the insufficient harm caused by the campaign against inappropriate sexual behavior, and calls for more. Numerous lives and careers in film, music, and the media have been destroyed over the past 5 years due to the Bruges pursuit of sexually inappropriate behavior. The campaign has weakened democratic rights, including the presumption of innocence, and has cultivated an atmosphere conducive to intimidation and self-censorship. A group of women and African Americans who were previously given special privileges have without a doubt improved their economic standing by entering a portion of the film industry. Meanwhile, due to the pandemic's strong acceleration of economic processes, the standard of Hollywood film has fallen to a new minimum. The blockbuster or spectacular movie phenomenon is more prevalent than before. More than ever, independent voices have been marginalized. According to Barnes, the #MeToo campaign has not done anything for the vast majority of women. The disparity in female earnings that has existed since the 1970s continues to increase, and this trend will only become worse with deflationary inflation and the oncoming fracking boom. The latest trial in Los Angeles against producer Harvey Weinstein, she said's upcoming release on the origins of #MeToo in 2017, and the Woman King's Fuerte de Entradas, an absurd fabrication of history in the context of identity politics, are the things that whet Barnes and the Times' appetite. The article by Barnes, which is without a doubt intended in part to highlight the Democratic Party's support among middle-class and upper-class voters in the run-up to the November elections, expresses concern about potential obstacles that could prevent the Times from continuing to enrich these social segments that it represents. This people's egotism is displayed in Barnes' hypothesis. The new problems have become a higher priority than diversity, equity, and inclusion, the speaker says. These issues include the generalized cost cut while the tequila continues to face challenges. The risk of recently included people feeling excluded increases when economic conditions deteriorate. At this point, Barnes quotes a movie executive who identified himself as a white man, who noted that for 3 years we only hired women and people of color. The threat of war, the threat of fascism, systemic attacks on democratic rights and quality of life levels, all of this is excluded from Barnes' calculations. Without naming them, it is stated that the women who were hired for high positions and presented as models of winners in a new era have been segregated, while some of the men who were excluded due to allegations of improper behavior are working again. Barnes elaborates on this last subject and expresses regret that the generalized stigma against males accused of bad behavior no longer exists. What a disgusting comment, befitting the anti-communist purges of the 1950s. Now, those who have only been accused are not destituted arbitrarily. In fact, the juries in the recent court cases involving actors Johnny Depp and Kevin Spacey have shown a serious concern over the events, and not for the accusations that the Times and the rest of the American media are happy to accept as being inflammatory and mostly unfounded. The Times response expresses sadness at the circumstances surrounding Depp's case, stating that the actor won a significant legal case in which his ex-girlfriend, actress Amber Heard, accused him of domestic and sexual violence. Yes, Depp accused Heard of abuse, and the jury agreed with him. Barnes writes that Depp is now directing a movie. James Franco's acting career imploded in 2018 amid allegations of inappropriate sexual behavior, according to the more vague accusations. 4 years later, Barnes continued, after a $22 million agreement in which he refused to acknowledge to any crimes, he had at least 3 movies in line. Neither Depp nor Franco were accused of any crimes, much less sentenced for any. However, none was appropriately distraught. The Times article makes it clear that gender and race make up the social axis around which everything revolves. Hollywood movies, which at one time included Tiempos Modernos, Los Uvas de la Era, Ciudadano Kane, and The Best Years of Our Lives, are not capable of speaking about the conditions and worries of the vast majority of workers in the population. Instead, progressive cinema is defined by movies like Bros, the first homosexual romantic comedy from a major studio, Domingo de Pascua, a comedy hailed as a turning point for Filipino representation, and Marvel, a Disney Plus series praised for its portrayal of a teenage Muslim superhero. Barnes clearly does not oppose American studio films degrading to the level of comic books. Rather, he simply wants them to be produced with the appropriate ornamentation in light of identity politics. And in any case, certain films and programs that openly display diversity and inclusion have encountered difficulties in the marketplace or have failed to find success. There is no need to draw broad conclusions, such as no one looks at the slow sales of tickets for a Brad Pitt movie and concludes that no one wants to see older white men on screen. The entire Times article is permeated by this sick racism. Barnes worries that ambiguous films may once again become popular, pointing out in particular that researchers have begun to take more risks with the content. That is, they have begun to create works that may offend those who are obsessed with race and gender. According to the Netflix documentary Blonde about Marilyn Monroe, she has been mocked by the critics as an exploiter and misogynist. And from Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the politically incorrect creative forces behind South Park and the Book of Mormon, comes a musical comedy with real action about the reparations for slave trade. Both the autocensura and the censura follow the daily schedule. Barnes wants to dispel any notion that there was exaggerated correction, as suggested in one of his interviews conducted in 2017, and later cites an anonymous executive's comment that at the start of the campaign against inappropriate sexual behavior, "We all struggle daily with absolute fear. This fear still exists, but it has lessened." Aspect of the social relations brutality in the United States. This is the reality of capitalism. We believe that sexual assaults and coercion were reported in a very incomplete manner. In all the numerous situations in the United States when the weak find themselves at the mercy of the powerful, the WSWS previously warned in 2017 that the area to the extreme right has always been the site of sexual assaults. Nothing remotely progressist will emerge from this, we wrote. A revised production code, a portrayal of libertinage in films and television, more power for the censors, nominated and self-designated. This is what will most likely result from this sad process. The power and wealth system, which is the root of the real abuses and crimes, is still in place. Not a single aspect of that prediction needs to be changed 5 years later.